Step in my dojo, you
Step in my dojo, you
step in my.
Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can be notified when we've got more awesome content for you. Lots of love. I'm Il Gates. Enjoy.
Yo, what up, Producer Dojo? My name is Kermode. I'm a new sensei here at the dojo. Serum's a synthesizer I absolutely love. I actually used to work for Cymatics as their lead sound designer for, I believe, 1.5 years, 2 years, making presets and wavetables. So it's something I'm very comfortable with. It's something I love doing. And I'm going to give you guys some insight into how I do it. So without further ado, let's go. So the first technique I want to tell you guys about in Serum is simply resampling. Within Serum, you can create wavetables by resampling pretty much anything, any sort of filtering, any sort of effect, and all of that can stack up to quite easily create a wavetable in Serum. Now, the first thing I should say is to resample a wavetable in Serum, how it does it is it measures 1 bar of modulation, and that's what becomes resampled into a wavetable. So step 1, the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need some sort of modulation source. I use an LFO and I use a simple ramp, and you have it extend over 1 bar, and it has to be set to off. So that means it's kind of constantly cycling through that bar in time with Ableton's clock or your DAW's clock. And from there, now we can start applying this. So for example, we have a basic saw wave here. And let's say I wanted to have some sort of filter movement become my new wavetable. So what you do is you select your filter movement. In this case, I'll do something like comb minus, increase the resonance. It doesn't really matter what filter type. It's more for the example here. And I'm going to sweep this through. So this is it unresampled, or pre-resample. And now let's resample this down. So you head down to the menu here and you go resample to whichever oscillator you want. We can then remove this filtering, and you can actually hear that effect, that filter, has become our wavetable. After you get to this point, your wavetable still isn't complete. So there's a couple things I want to show you that I think is pretty important for every single wavetable. So what you want to do is head over to the wavetable editor here. If you didn't see how I did that, it's the little pencil button in the top right corner. And from here we can begin to process this wavetable. Now it'd be a whole video unto itself on how to go into all of these, and we'll be touching on the important ones as we go through this video. But the important one now is heading over to the processing menu, and you want to normalize each gained separately. So what this means is each frame of the wavetable is going to be normalized to its maximum volume potential. There we go. So now the loudest peak is as high as it can go. And we've created a wavetable. And what's really cool is it's not done there. You can keep stacking. So as long as you automate that same previous wavetable, so we get the whole movement before we process it further, we could then add other things such as, let's say, distortion, for example. We could pick a distortion type, and we can have that become part of our wavetable. Resample that to oscillator A. Turn it off, head back over. And there we go. So resampling is one of my favorite ways. Now with that in mind, I'm going to show you guys something really cool. You're not limited to just a few effects. You can really do as much as you want. So what I'll often do is I'll take presets that I create, that I enjoy, and I will further resample that preset down to a single wavetable. So I've already been working on my 2020 bass library. I guess I'm kind of like a car company that way, even though it's 2019. But I've got a ton of basses I'm already working on for next year. So let's find one I enjoy. So how about this one here? It's kind of simple, but the processing is quite important for this sound. So what we're going to do is we're going to resample that down to a wavetable. We're going to go through the same processes. We're going to set LFO1 to modulate over 1 bar. We're going to set it to off, and we're going to resample to oscillator A. From there, we're going to turn off everything other than oscillator A. And what I actually like to do is right-click the LFO and remove all destinations, so it's no longer modulating anything. So we have a complete fresh start. This is wavetable only. And there we go. We've got our wavetable purely from resampling. Now, if you do this process and you only like part of the wavetable, you don't like the whole thing. For example, there's a weird little artifact in the beginning here. And I don't like it going this far. What you can do is head over to the wavetable editor, select the amount that you want to actually be your wavetable, add or remove, and you have a bunch of options for removing different frames of your wavetable. But what we're going to do is we're going to remove all except the selected ones. And then same step, we're going to normalize each grain separately. Simplifying that wavetable down. So personally, that's one of my favorite ways of making wavetables. There's a lot of potential there. That's resampling. Let's move on to our next trick. So where I think Serum is kind of most famous is your ability to simply import things into Serum to create a wavetable with. So in my sample library, I'm going to actually just kind of tell you what some of my favorite things for importing are. And the first are vocal samples. So for example, I have some video game samples here, and I have some old, I believe, Street Fighter samples.
I can't stand working for Shadaloo anymore.
And I think this can create a really good wavetable. Now in this video, I don't want to quite go into all the different importing types. There's plenty of videos on that on the internet, as well as just reading the manual. But what I recommend doing is, if you don't understand them, honestly just testing them all out. It's very easy to just drag it in, see how your sound reacted to that import type, and then try a different one. And let's pitch that down a few octaves. So that kind of sounds like a chipmunk version. So let's try one down. That's great. This has a lot of potential here. So my recommendation then is, once you've imported a sample, you've tried the different import modes, you find something you like the results, isolate a single part of the wavetable that you enjoy. I think the more complicated a wavetable is, the more movement, the harder it is to kind of utilize for a single preset, because you end up just using a small chunk of it anyways. So what I'm going to do is isolate what parts I really like. Yeah, I kind of like that ah sort of vowel, which starts at about 74. Ends at 81. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to highlight that with shift. We're going to add and remove all except selected. And here we go. Now we've limited it to just these 8. Now at this point, however, everything's a little chunky. That's not a very smooth wavetable. So this is where the morphing options are important. What the morphing options do is they take those select amount of frames and they create a full 256 frames out of it that smoothly fade between. All of these can work for your sound. Personally, I like spectral the most. Crossfade's good too. I've heard people like Virtual Riot prefer crossfade. There really isn't a right or wrong way of doing it. I just, again, test them, see what works for the sound. With this one, we're going to go with spectral for no particular reason, just going to go for it. And then after that, I normalize each grain. I normalize each gain separately once again. So you can see, especially for something like dubstep where you want a very vowely, vocally sound for a growl, there we go. Vocals are an easy one to do. Another type of sound I like to import is actually just bass samples. So I personally do a lot of my library in audio. I like to export basses down to single sort of one-shots or small sequences that I can further manipulate. And I find those work really well to throw back into Serum later as wavetables. So again, I'm already working on my 2020 sounds. So let's take a peek at these. So that could make a pretty good wavetable. I'm just going to test all the import modes here. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, and I don't want to really dive into all of them right now, so I'm just going to drag all of them in, test them out. Perfect. Even though this is a long sample, it still kind of works, and I can still isolate a single moment, and I'll do just that. We'll start from here, and when it looks like the first wobble ends, same steps. Remove all except selected. Morph spectrally. This time we'll even try crossfade. In this case, normalize each grain separately, and let's test this out. Some really nice tone in there. And that only took a few steps, and I can go back through my entire library. You can go use bass shots that you've downloaded from other sample packs. It's really easy. Just start dragging stuff, dropping it in. Hear how it sounds, and you've got a wavetable.
Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like this content and you want to see more, it would really mean a lot for you to support the channel by subscribing, clicking like on this video, or dropping a comment below. Is there anything we missed? Is there anything else that you'd like to see? We are listening, so please don't be shy. Like, subscribe, and comment. This channel is for you, and we need to hear your voice.
Step in my...
It hits all by itself.